This is a Singer Model 648. And a lot of people would say that this sewing machine is a worthless piece of garbage and that I should just throw it in the trash. And that if you ever were to come by a Singer Touch and Sew or Touch and Throw, that you should just throw it in the garbage and be done with it. But here's what I have to say about that. Not all Singer Touch and Sew sewing machines had nylon gears in the inside, and those of them that do have nylon gears have gears that are fairly easy to take out and replace. I already know that ain't nobody trying to replace gears in their sewing machine, so let's just go ahead and look at some Singer history so that we can identify which machines on the marketplace today have steel gears. In March of 1964, Singer released the Singer 600 auto reel sewing machine. This machine had a button on the very front of it that allowed you to wind the bobbin in place without ever removing it from the sewing machine. And this was a revolutionary feature of the time. However, many felt that this feature was very fiddly and they didn't like it. And they also didn't like it because the bobbin was smaller than your class 15 bobbin, so you ended up having to wind the bobbin much more frequently. This is the 600E, and it was one of the oldest Singer Touch and Sew machines. The model that came before this one was the 600, and it was called the auto reel, and that is because later on Singer changed it from auto reel to touch and sew because that sounded a lot catchier. And they also moved the auto bobbin winder button from right here to inside of the machine, located about right there. What I'm noticing is that a lot of the older machines have a metal button on the inside instead of one that is plastic and more ergonomic. I have to pause the video right here to say, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. The thumbs up pushes my video out in the algorithm so that I can get more views and get paid. So please do what you can, and let's get back to the content. It's debatable, but sources say that in 1965, Singer released the 626. The 626 had a pink faceplate and completely revolutionized the sewing machine industry. It did so because they started out production with steel gears and finished with nylon ones. The nylon greatly diminished the longevity of the sewing machine, and this was even more so true in 65 because people were not used to these sorts of sewing machines and heavily greased them, causing those gears to degrade even more quickly than they normally would have. Around 67, they added a automatic needle threader to their premium version of this sewing machine, and I found a commercial illustrating just that. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Get the most fun out of life, out of being a mother and wife.
This commercial is really illustrating how times have changed because there's not a lot of females of this age group in today's day that are actually mothers and wives.
New fashion excitement, that's all created by you.
In today's times, this commercial absolutely would not fly because it assumes that only the female would be doing the sewing. Also, another thing about this commercial is that the overwhelming majority of people, regardless of if they are male or female, do not sew.
On your new Touch and Sew sewing machine by Singer. Touch and Sew, another first from Singer.
Don't you just love how they gave us a full 360 view of the sewing machine? I think it's great because in today's times, there's very few brands out there that offer a 360 view of their sewing machine online. And I think that it's really important that they start to include that because in today's times, the overwhelming majority of consumers are buying their machines from online and never get to see it in person first. And usually, even if you do get to see the sewing machine in person, it's in a box and there's no store display. So I think that was really important because it would reduce the amount of returns, but also help us as consumers to decide what we want before we make a purchase.
Be the girl with the golden touch on your new Singer Golden Touch and Sew machine. Dozens of exclusive features, like this new built-in needle threader for the golden slant needle and the push-button bobbin that winds right in the machine.
I don't know if you noticed that, but now there is a plastic button on the inside there for the auto bobbin winder. And I find that interesting because I think that it would make it a lot more ergonomic than the metal one that was in there in the beginning.
A wonderful new feeling. You can do all three kinds of sewing: straight, zigzag, and chain stitch.
Touch and sew, the push button bobbin way.
Come sew on one at your Singer Center. Choose from 5 touch and sew models from $149.95.
What's new?
According to the inflation calculator, $149 in 1967 was equivalent to $1,429. That is quite expensive. I'm showing you the 648 again because around 1968, my grandparents purchased this machine. If you are out there on the marketplace and see a sewing machine with a button holder in the front that says touch and sew, know that it's not going to be a all metal gears machine. Okay, so I have both machines right in front of me and we're going to do a compare and contrast. So this is the 600E that I got off of Goodwill. It's not in the best condition. It has all of these stickers all over it, but never mind that. You have a pattern selector and special up here, and they want you to set the machine to K and A in order to wind your bobbin, or I believe to do a straight stitch. This system right here is a little confusing to me, and I have to keep in my manual in order to even figure out how to set up the sewing settings, and I'm not a beginner sewist. So this model here feels like the rough draft, and this feels like the completed one, because on this machine right here, they want you to put the needle in center needle position and then at 1 in order to wind your bobbin, and that seems a lot more simple. Also, this machine here has special directions for setting your needle at left, center, and right, whereas this machine just has left, center, right here, and you can just move it to that without having to go through a manual to figure out how to do it. This machine right here has a metal lever here, while this one is plastic. The plastic lever is actually thicker and feels more ergonomic than this one here. And I think that I like this plastic one better. And if it were to ever break, I know that I can simply 3D print another one, because here we 3D print parts, and it would be no problem to just 3D print another lever if I ever so needed to do so. This model here does not have a button holder feature. This one does. This model has a closed take-up lever. And then let me see if I can bring this closer. This one has an open one. Let's see if I can turn this so you can see it better. The open one just makes it a little easier to thread your take-up lever. On some machines, it causes the thread to pull out when you are on the upward stroke, and it kind of messes up your stitch. But on this machine, it's not so much of a problem because of how they cut the slit into the take-up lever. So I think it's fine for this model, and just makes it a little bit easier. Now, the touch and sew feature was the phenomenal feature that we don't even have on our modern machines today, where the bobbin winds automatically inside of here. This one is made from metal, and it feels a lot harder to use. It's less ergonomic. It actually kind of hurts your finger a little bit when you press it down, because it's like a sharp metal. Whereas this one right here is plastic and a lot more ergonomic. It's actually shaped to cradle your finger, and it feels a lot better. Now, as far as weight is concerned, one of the main selling points of the Singer Touch and Sew nylon gear model was that it was supposed to be lighter than this one. This machine right here weighs 31.3 pounds, and this one right here, according to my scale, weighs 20.3 pounds. So there's only 1 pound of difference between this model here and this one. So I don't really think that the nylon gears being lighter weight is really a great selling point for the machine. You'll also find that some of the older models have a solid presser feet, whereas this model here has snap-on presser feet. That's not something that you can visually tell, but you would be able to tell that if you like found a Singer at a thrift store or something like that. You could remove it and see whether or not the foot was snap-on or solid, and be able to tell or get a context clue as to whether or not you had a nylon gears or a metal gears machine. So I think that is virtually all the things that I wanted to say about whether or not your Touch n Sew has steel gears or not. I hope that you enjoyed this very short video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.